An Alliance man who was on the run for just about 1 month is back in custody. KNEB.TV News starts right now.
From your trusted source for news in western Nebraska and eastern Wyoming, this is KNEB.TV News. Presented by Platte Valley Companies, premier provider of financial services.
Hello, I'm Ryan Murphy. This is KNEB.TV News powered by Platte Valley Companies. Thanks for joining me. In our top story, a man who was inadvertently released from jail last month is back in custody thanks to a coordinated effort between U.S. Marshals, the Alliance Police Department, and the Nebraska State Patrol. Harley Salway had been on the lam since mid-April as he still faces Box Butte County charges stemming from an alleged violent sexual assault. Alliance Police Chief David Levitt says on Sunday, Salway was seen exiting an Alliance home, and authorities responded and surrounded the residence before taking him into custody. Also arrested was Angela Coe, who is harboring Salway. She's being held on a $10,000 bond, while Salway is being held at the Box Butte County Jail without bond. Well, jury selection and trial was slated for this week in Scottsbluff County District Court for a Bluffs man charged in a Thanksgiving night assault, but the case has since been dismissed. 35-year-old Cody Applegate was arrested after authorities discovered a male victim bleeding from the head after being attacked with the butt end of a hunting knife. He was slated to stand trial on charges of intentional second-degree assault, use of a deadly weapon to commit a felony, possession of a deadly weapon by a prohibited person, and terroristic threats. However, prosecutors say the victim in this case became uncooperative, forcing them to dismiss the case with prejudice. And Scottsbluff Police Chief Krista Brass was able to present her first police department annual report earlier this month to the City Council, and says 2024 was a busy year. In total, there were nearly 21,000 calls for service, with 663 arrests and nearly 4,000 reports written. Chief Brass says a highlight last year was having e-citations fully implemented and even secured funding to help with that process.
But we found this grant funding that paid like 75% of the project. They had a big focus on western Nebraska. Scottsbluff County had a really low compliance rate with e-citations. We were one of the only departments that was actually in compliance. But it kind of worked to our benefit when they were trying to get other people on board because we were able to utilize that funding to do that upgrade and streamline our reporting in that way. So that was a positive thing.
She added a large amount of drugs, including meth, fentanyl, and cocaine, were seized and taken off the streets as well. We'll have more news right after this.
Whether you're gardening, searching for the perfect vacation home, or planning your next travel destination, your life is just as unique. Your Raymond James financial advisors, Jody Rosiska and Kevin Figg, get to know you, your passions, and your vision for the future, so you can live your life. That's life well planned.
Welcome back. Governor Jim Pillen's veto of a measure that would have allowed SNAP benefits for felons convicted of certain drug offenses withstood an override attempt Monday. The governor rejected LB 319 just 1 day after it passed, with 32 votes of support last week. During debates to override, Senator Tanya Storer of Whitman noted that current law doesn't just prohibit SNAP use by any drug user.
This is, I think, pretty realistic because I understand that addictions are not easily overcome. So for those folks who are users or in the midst of an addiction, 3 or more convictions before you're deemed ineligible. Or, number 2, has been convicted of a felony involving the sale or distribution of a controlled substance.
The override attempt failed to gain as much support as the bill did on final passage, with the motion failing on a vote of 24 in favor, 24 against. And the governor hosted U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins in Nebraska Monday as she signed a waiver to amend the statutory definition of food for purchase under Nebraska's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Effective January 1st, SNAP recipients will no longer be able to use those funds for purchase of soda or energy drinks in the state of Nebraska. During the announcement, Pillen said there's absolutely zero reason for taxpayers to be subsidizing purchases of those products. Prior to the waiver, SNAP recipients could buy anything on store shelves except alcohol, tobacco, hot foods, and personal care products.
Life is crazy. Pain is stressful. How can anybody concentrate with these busy schedules? Now you can. This is Ben Moravec coming to you from Hydrozen, a float therapy business right here in Scottsbluff. I'm here today to let you know we now have memberships for $49 monthly. You can guarantee yourself at least one float per month. You know how floating keeps your muscles relaxed, your joints relieved, and your brain clear to think? Now you can float at a reduced rate each month. Inquire today at hydrozenfloat.com or call us at 308-63-FLOAT. Hydrozen. Unplug and recharge.
I imagined retirement in a place where we could enjoy our golden years, where adventure and friendship are the only items on the schedule. The Garden Homes at Northfield gives us the luxury we planned for and peace of mind when it comes to convenience, safety, and comfort. We never have to stop and think about the day-to-day upkeep. We love to explore abroad, but most importantly in our backyard. So much to do, so much to see. Here at Northfield, we get the protection of life care, incredible tax benefits, and secured rates for aging services. It's peaceful, knowing that if our needs change, we'll be taken care of. And most importantly, that our kids will never have to make any tough decisions. There never seemed to be enough time to do all the things we wanted. Now we get to focus our energy on enjoying what this community has to offer. At the Garden Homes, life is ours again. A place we had dreamed about. A chance to focus on us.
I'm Steve White, part of the Rural Radio Network, and joining us on the program today, we have Doug Simon of Trados and J.J. Lobby from the Holdridge, the Loomis area. Guys, it's been quite the week. We saw trade talks last weekend. China, talk of a deal, possibly a 90-day pause, at least right now. We saw some biodiesel movement, some movement in the renewable fuels over the last week. It's been another week of headlines and impacting the markets. We're going to get both of their thoughts on that in just a moment. But first, here's a word from the Nebraska Soybean Board.
It may be small, but this little bean fuels a lot of power. It powers a food industry as a top source of protein. It's a fuel that powers diesel engines with fewer emissions. It powers a state economy and bottom lines. And it powers the rest of the world as a top Nebraska export. Yeah, it may be small, but we're finding more ways for this little bean to power Nebraska.
Welcome back to the weekly market roundup. Doug Simon and J.J. Lobby are joining us, guys, as we were talking a moment ago. Just another week, but there's been some things happen. Doug, let's talk about that. Going back a week ago, we were going into that weekend saying, gosh, what's going to happen with China? What's kind of your sense now that we've been through that weekend, and what can we make and read into the action that way?
Last Sunday, Treasury Secretary Bessent said that we're making a deal with China, and so that was real positive for the market Sunday night. We didn't really follow through with that on Monday. That's encouraging, though, that we're getting together. They dropped the tariffs for 90 days. There's still a lot of work to be done on the non-tariff trade barriers, phytosanitary type things, intellectual property. But, Trump's going in the right direction by forcing everybody to the table, and everybody's, starting to talk. And longer term, I think it'll be, productive to get these, have more, freer trade, more fairer trade. So it should be good longer term. But then Monday, the Chinese were talking to the Brazilians, and so the Brazilians are going to start exporting DDGs to China, and that's been a mainstay of U.S. So that was negative to the market on Monday as well. But big deal was that WASDE report on Monday. That was a big kind of, I think, surprise, the way that they actually increased the exports for next year. They're keeping them similar to what they are for the 24-25 crop on corn and beans. And so actually the starting carryout stocks for next year at 1.8 billion on corn and 300 million on beans is actually, I feel, pretty constructive, given we started, quite a bit higher than that last year. And that's what the commercial numbers were for this next year going forward. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, JJ, anything there that you want to comment on? What's kind of stands out to you about the last 7 days here?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree there that the WASDE report really, to me, it was pretty shocking, shockingly bullish. Maybe we kind of saw that reaction early, and then we did see, like Doug said there, the market just kind of took the rumors of the biofuels, the tax credit thing. This is the administration's chance, I think, to prove to the farmers, to prove to farm country that he's got our backs. If he just does not give those waivers to those refineries, I mean, that's going to be a huge benefit to us. So there was a lot of wacky things that happened this week, but with the exception of corn, we're basically steady on the week.
Yeah. Let's talk more about that, Doug. What we were talking about there a moment ago with biofuels, the renewable sector, there was this leak that came out talking about biodiesel. Can you kind of explain what we heard and then kind of how the markets reacted to that?
I think the administration, they created a little uncertainty. And so it had a big impact on the RINs. And I don't follow the biofuels as closely as, probably I need to, but we were down $3.5 cents a pound on Wednesday or Thursday, when the news came out. So it was pretty negative to not only to the bean oil market, but also to the bean market. But if you'd looked at the fund positions in the bean oil, though, they are massively long. The commercial's been on the short side of that. And so unfortunately, you get a little negative news when those funds are so long. It scared a lot of them out of there. Now, like I said, we were back today on Friday morning. We kind of rallied back 2 cents, but midday here we're actually flat on the bean oil. So it's been it's still kind of taking it on the chin. And beans have gone flat too for the day, for that matter.
Yeah. Well, just a reminder, you are watching the Nebraska Soybean Board Weekly Market Roundup, brought to you by Nebraska soybean farmers and their checkoff. So, again, a lot of movement. What's both your sense? If somebody's maybe just kind of tuned out, they've been out on the tractor, they've been running the sprayer for a couple of days. Is there anything from the last 7 days that really going to impact them, or continue if you're looking for marketing decisions or thinking about your marketing plan? Do we still have a sense of, are we going to be able to find those moments this year where we can maybe pencil out and find a little bit of profitability? Are we going to see those opportunities? And what should we be watching for maybe to know when we might have those opportunities to sell?
Well, I think that, honestly, I believe we've seen the most bearish numbers we're going to see on the corn anyway. Harvest planting is really going fast. That's kind of what the trade is looking at, I think, is the crop getting in timely manner. That's the first hurdle we got to pass. But again, I think we've seen maybe the most bearish numbers we're going to see this year as far as the acreage and the yield number that they gave us. I just can't see having that many acres and still producing a record yield. Everything's got to go right. I would argue that there's plenty of places out there that things aren't going perfect right now. So we could definitely see that. When that happens, I don't know. All eyes are going to be on weather. So, we've got a pretty decent shot, at least here in Nebraska, Saturday night through Tuesday. But beyond that, it looks dry. So if that little weather event falls short, that's when we could see this market maybe take off. It's kind of frustrating when you talk about the funds that when you get the commitment of traders report that comes out on Fridays, that's from Tuesday. So when you get big moves late in the week, you don't really know for sure what those funds did. And everything's kind of in hindsight. I'm kind of getting in the weeds a little bit there, but that frustrates me.
Yeah, that's good insight. Doug, let's talk to you about we were just talking about weather for a moment there with JJ. You look into the I states, it looks not as bad. It looks a little better, but you look here in the northern plains, Kansas, Nebraska, certainly where we're sitting, South Dakota. It has been abnormally warm for this time of year. It's been dry. That's not a great way to establish a crop. Do you have any thoughts on how that, is there any possibility that that's going to impact some of these things we're talking about here?
The only thing you missed was the wind. I mean, we were 85 and very windy, and it dried out things, considerably on Tuesday, Wednesday. So the bigger picture summer forecast for June, July, August are very dry, warm and dry. If you look at the NOAA numbers, and so the problem is we're in this weather pattern where it's cold off the coast of California and also up in the Gulf of Alaska. And so it depends on how that progresses during the summer. If it stays really cold up there in the Gulf of Alaska, we'll tend to get even more, kind of drier conditions. More, the heat comes out of Hawaii and kind of lands out in the Midwest, is what Ellen Taylor always used to talk about, the climatologist from Iowa State. But so that weather pattern we're in it's not great. I mean, just in the southern tier of Nebraska, where it was just so dry. I mean, they had that rain earlier in the week up in the northwest part of the state, which is going to help them a lot. But from where JJ is all the way across, southern Nebraska here over in the eastern side where we're non-irrigated, there's moisture maybe in the top, part of the soil, but the subsoil is not there. So we're going to need, the rain that they're showing for this week, even if you look at it over a 15-day period, it's still below normal. I mean, it would be a very beneficial rain to get that, but we've planted, the funds are in a thought that, okay, we're planting fast. Well, the reason we're planting fast is because it's so stinking dry, in the major part of the Corn Belt. If you look at kind of that southeast part of the Corn Belt, like southern Illinois, southern Indiana, that area is wet. But even if you look at the soil moisture maps in northern Indiana, northern Illinois, you look at Iowa, you look at Nebraska, Minnesota, parts of the Dakotas, it's still, if you look at whatever you want to call it, the 40-inch, 16-inch, 4-inch levels, it's dry. And so we've got through the last 3 years where we've had very timely rains in some areas. We've had decent crops, but we've also had some areas that are pretty poor crops. And we're kind of set up in that same boat where we're going to need perfect rainfall to have, I think what, JJ said, to have that decent crop. It's going to be hard to do that again. So the pattern's not real attractive right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least from our vantage point where we're sitting in Nebraska, it's hard to imagine that we're going to have those kind of numbers. One thing before we go, I wanted to touch on that's the grain side. There's a lot of challenges, but JJ, we're fortunate around here to be diversified. A lot of folks certainly have some crops, but have maybe a cow-calf operation and that kind of thing. That cattle sector continues to really prop things up and at least bring some opportunities for some profitability for some guys, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. If you here the last year, basically, you just own some cattle, you're going to be okay. But I've been preaching here for the last several months that prices don't stay at records forever. At some point, this thing's going to roll over. And, if you don't have any kind of protection on, all the profits you've seen in the last year might just go bye-bye in a hurry.
Yeah. We're about out of time. Each of you, anything you're looking forward to in the coming days that might give us a sense of where things are heading?
We haven't talked about that. Record funds short in that across Kansas City, Chicago, Minneapolis, about as negative as you could potentially get in the wheat. And corn funds are back to neutral. They were record long back in February. So, corn's gone to a point of weakness here. So got pre-harvest sales done. You can look at some calls to go along with your positions. And like JJ was talking, cattle are up in those high ends. People look at LRP or look at puts or hedging. You got to look at your break evens and stuff. But yeah, risk management's always the key word there on all of the commodities we're working with.
Well, very good. Well, we're out of time, but thanks to our guests today, JJ Lobby and Doug Simon. As a reminder, commodities future options involve a substantial risk of loss that's not suitable to all investors. And that is this week's weekly market roundup, brought to you by Nebraska Soybeans and their checkoff. I'm Steve White on the Rural Radio Network.
The summer heat will be here soon, but our hot summer savings sale is on now. Get $1,200 off every door and $800 off every window. Plus enjoy no money down, no payments, and no interest for 12 months. Get an extra 5% off your entire project if purchased on initial consultation. Hurry, this exclusive offer won't last long. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your windows and doors, so grab these hot savings while you can. Call today or visit rbawyoming.com to book your free estimate.
Welcome to Kelly's Liquor, your liquor cabinet. Whether you're a wine enthusiast, a whiskey sommelier, a tequila connoisseur, or you just love your beer, Kelly's has the best selection of what you're looking for. Family owned and operated since 1946 and right on 27th Street in Scottsbluff. Come see us today at Kelly's Liquor, your liquor cabinet. And remember to be a good neighbor. Don't drink and drive. Kelly's Liquor, West 27th Street in Scottsbluff.
Let's take a look at your community calendar, brought to you by Riverstone Bank. The community calendar is brought to you by Riverstone Bank. We're local and we love our community.
Better sleep and better health can be found at Western Sleep Medicine in Gering. Since 2006, Western Sleep Medicine has offered the lowest cost sleep testing, either in their independent sleep laboratory or the privacy of your own home. You have control over your health care and your out-of-pocket cost. All insurance is accepted for a much lower cost than the regional option. If you need a sleep study, ask for Western Sleep Medicine. They've helped thousands of people over the years and want to help you. Western Sleep Medicine. Better sleep, better health.
At Platte Valley Bank, we want to help you take advantage of every adventure. We know you have plans, goals, and dreams. Let us help you with them. Whether it is building, buying, or renovating, we have the home loan or home equity line of credit to fit your needs. Stop in and see us at Platte Valley Bank and let us help make your dreams a reality. You belong here. Platte Valley Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
And finally tonight, with recent storms creating downed trees and property damage, authorities are advising area residents to be weary of fly-by-night contractors seeking to help you clean up debris. Scottsville Fire Prevention Officer Chris Perales Jr. says fly-by-night contractors will take advantage of the situation and may either do poor work or leave town without doing any work at all, or do work that they do complete but may not conform to building or fire codes. Perales says when choosing a contractor, watch out for red flags such as a big down payment, a price that's too low, and companies with no insurance or office location. He says to avoid the pitfalls, get referrals from friends and family, do some research before hiring, and check the contractor's credentials and insurance coverage. Well, that does it for us this time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there. We'll see you here next time.